A Vampire Romance, written by Amelia Hart. Chapter 1. Shadows and Poison. The great hall of Castle Valengard smelled of beeswax and fear. Honora Whalen pressed herself against the cold stone pillar, silver tray trembling in her calloused hands. 100 noblewomen filled the torchlit chamber, their silk gowns rustling against marble floors. Each one more beautiful than the last, each one desperate, and none of them looking at the servants. Honora preferred it that way. 22 years of life had taught her that invisibility was survival. Her mother had learned that lesson too late, cast out by the noble Hartley family for loving a common man. Now she was ash in the ground, and Honora carried wine for the family that had rejected her blood. The irony wasn't lost on her. Lady Genevieve of Hartley. The herald's voice echoed through vaulted ceilings. Daughter of Duke Hartley, 19th summer. Presented for consideration. Honora's distant cousin glided forward. Golden hair cascaded down her back in perfect waves. Blue eyes sparkled in candlelight. The crowd murmured approval. Even the other noblewomen, competitors all, couldn't hide their admiration. But the figure on the obsidian throne didn't move. Vampire King Dorian sat with the stillness of carved marble. His black hair fell past his shoulders, framing a face too perfect to be mortal. Pale skin seemed to drink the torchlight rather than reflect it. Gray eyes watched Genevieve approach with all the warmth of winter frost. "Your Majesty." Genevieve curtsied so low her forehead nearly touched the floor. "I am honored beyond words to stand before you. My father offers alliance, my bloodline offers purity, and I offer my devotion to the treaty between our kinds." The words were practiced, rehearsed 1,000 times in mirrors and before tutors. Honora had heard variations of the same speech 86 times tonight. Dorian's expression didn't change. "You may return to your seat." Genevieve's smile faltered. She rose slowly, confusion flashing across her features before training smoothed it away. The walk back to her designated chair seemed to take an eternity. Whispers erupted among the assembled nobles. The king had rejected the most beautiful woman in 5 kingdoms. Honora refilled wine goblets along the eastern wall, her green hazel eyes tracking movements with the precision her mother had taught her. "Read the room," her mother always said. "Read faces. People tell you everything if you know how to look." Right now, the room told her several things. The noblewomen were growing desperate as rejections mounted. The vampire courtiers lining the walls looked bored, and 3 servants near the king's table were moving wrong, too synchronized, too purposeful. Honora's hand stilled on a goblet. She watched the 3 men, their faces shadowed by servant hoods. One carried a wine pitcher. Another adjusted the king's chalice. The third stood watch. Their movements weren't clumsy like old Thomas, who spilled more than he served. They weren't efficient like Marin, her friend who could balance 4 trays at once. They were something else entirely. Calculated. Lady Elizabeth of Thornwood. The herald continued his endless parade. Daughter of Baron Thornwood, 21st summer. Another beauty stepped forward. Another rehearsed speech. Another cold rejection. The servant with the pitcher approached the king's table. Honora shifted position, angling herself between 2 pillars for a better view. Something glinted in the torchlight. A small vial, no larger than her thumb, disappeared into the pitcher as the servant poured. Her blood went cold. Lady Catherine of Eastmarch. Honora's heart hammered against her ribs. The poisoned wine filled the king's chalice now, dark liquid that smelled faintly of elderberries and something sharper, something chemical. The king hadn't touched a single drink all evening, but protocols demanded a toast at the ceremony's end. Every servant knew the ritual. When the final noblewoman was presented, King Dorian would stand, raise his chalice, and seal the treaty with words as old as the kingdom itself, and then he would drink. Lady Margaret of Willowmere, 89. Honora counted automatically. 11 more presentations until the toast. The 3 servants were retreating now, melting back into the shadows where staff gathered. She tried to memorize their faces. One had a scar above his left eyebrow. Another wore a ring on his right hand, silver with a black stone. The third walked with a slight limp, favoring his left leg. Lady Annabel of Greyhaven. Should she call out? Guards lined every wall, But would they believe a servant girl? Would they act fast enough? The king's chalice sat waiting on the table, innocent and deadly. Lady Helena of Riverdale. Honora's eyes darted to the king. He sat motionless, watching each woman approach and retreat with the same disinterested expression. 600 years old, the stories said. Powerful enough to tear through steel, fast enough to dodge arrows. But could he survive poison made specifically to kill vampires? Lady Isabella of Westmarch. Her mother's voice echoed in memory. When you see something wrong, you act. Doesn't matter if they believe you. Doesn't matter what it costs. You do what's right. Lady Victoria of Northridge. The herald was speeding up now, sensing the crowd's restlessness. 5 more women, then 4, then 3. Honora made her decision. She didn't call out, didn't warn anyone. Instead, she walked directly across the great hall toward the king's table, her silver tray held high. Heads turned, whispers erupted. A servant didn't approach during presentations. Ever. Lady Beatrice of Stonehaven. 2 presentations left. Honora's worn leather boots made soft sounds against marble. 20 paces from the throne. 15. The guards noticed her now, hands moving toward sword hilts. Lady Rosalind of Oakwood. 1 left. Halt. A guard stepped forward, his voice sharp. Return to your station. Honora kept walking. 10 paces. 5. She could see the chalice clearly now, dark wine catching torchlight. Could smell the bitter undertone beneath elderberry sweetness. Final presentation. The herald's voice rose. Lady Genevieve of Hartley, called forward once more by ancient right of first refusal. It was Genevieve's last chance. The king could reconsider his initial rejection during final presentations. Genevieve stood, hope blazing in her blue eyes. The king's hand reached for the chalice. Honora threw her tray. The silver platter spun through the air, goblets flying in every direction. Wine splashed across pristine marble. Crystal shattered against stone. The tray itself struck the king's table with a deafening crash, sending the poisoned chalice toppling toward the floor. The great hall exploded into chaos. Guards rushed forward. Noblewomen screamed. Servants scattered. The herald's voice tried to restore order, but his words were lost in the pandemonium. Honora found herself slammed against a pillar, 2 guards pinning her arms. Pain shot through her shoulders. The silver tray lay bent on the floor, surrounded by broken crystal and spreading wine. But the king's chalice had fallen away from him. The poisoned wine pooled on the floor, not in his throat. Clumsy fool. 1 guard snarled. You've disrupted the ceremony. Take her to the cells. Another ordered. Through the crowd, Honora saw the 3 servants. They stood frozen near the eastern entrance, hoods shadowing their faces. The one with the scar met her eyes for just a moment. Then they ran. Wait! The voice cut through chaos like a blade through silk. Every sound in the hall died instantly. Bring the girl to me. Vampire King Dorian stood for the first time that evening. He moved with fluid grace, descending from his throne in 3 silent steps. The crowd parted before him without conscious thought. Predator and prey. Ancient instinct. He stopped at the spilled wine, crouching down. His pale fingers touched the dark liquid, brought it close to his face. Inhaled deeply. His gray eyes went from cold to arctic. Nightshade extract. His voice was soft, but carried to every corner of the hall. Silver powder. Crushed wolfsbane root. He stood slowly, wine dripping from his fingertips. A very expensive poison. One specifically designed to kill my kind. Gasps rippled through the assembled nobles. The vampire courtiers along the walls straightened, fangs visible now. The temperature in the hall seemed to drop 10 degrees. Dorian's gaze found Honora. She was still pinned between guards, her heart racing so fast she thought it might burst. His eyes held hers for a long moment. Gray meeting green hazel, ancient meeting mortal. You saw something. It wasn't a question. Honora's mouth was dry. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. 3 servants. They put something in the wine. I saw the vial. Describe them. One had a scar above his left eyebrow. Another wore a silver ring with a black stone on his right hand. The third limped slightly, favoring his left leg. The words tumbled out. They ran when the tray fell. Eastern entrance. Dorian turned to his guards. Find them, now, and seal all exits from the castle. 10 guards sprinted toward the eastern entrance. Another dozen fanned out through the hall, checking faces, pulling back hoods. The king looked at Honora again. His expression was unreadable, but something shifted in his eyes. Not warmth exactly, but interest. Recognition that she'd done more than interrupt a ceremony. Take her to the cells, he said finally. I'll question her further when the assassins are found. Your Majesty, please. Genevieve's voice rang out. She stepped forward, her beautiful face twisted with fury. This servant deliberately sabotaged my final presentation. She should be punished for her insolence, not questioned. Lady Genevieve. Dorian's voice carried a warning. This servant may have saved my life tonight. I suggest you return to your seat. But the ceremony is over. The king's words were final. All noblewomen will be escorted back to their homes at dawn with appropriate guard. The treaty stands, but no choice will be made tonight. This hall is now a crime scene. Protests erupted from every corner. 100 noblewomen who'd traveled from across Europe, who'd prepared for months, who'd pinned their families' hopes on this night, now faced dismissal without resolution. But none of that mattered to Honora, as guards hauled her toward the dungeon stairs. She caught one last glimpse of the great hall over her shoulder. The king stood alone among the chaos, black-haired and pale, staring at the spilled wine that should have been his death. Their eyes met once more across the distance, and something in the air between them shifted. Chapter 2. Midnight Interrogation. The cell smelled of damp stone and old fear. Honora sat on the single wooden bench, her hands still shaking from adrenaline. Torchlight flickered through iron bars, casting dancing shadows on walls that had held countless prisoners before her. She'd been here 3 hours. No one had come. No food. No water. Just silence and the distant drip of condensation somewhere in the darkness. Her mind replayed the great hall over and over. The flying tray. The shattered crystal. The king's gray eyes meeting hers across chaos. Had she been foolish? Perhaps the poison was harmless. Perhaps she'd interrupted the most important ceremony in a decade for nothing. No. She'd seen the vial, watched the liquid disappear into wine, read the servant's body language clear as spoken words. Her mother had taught her well. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Multiple sets. Guards probably, coming to drag her to judgment. Honora stood, squaring her shoulders. Whatever came next, she'd face it standing. But only one figure appeared at the cell door. Vampire King Dorian stood alone in the torchlit corridor. He'd removed his ceremonial crown and cloak. Now he wore simple black tunic and trousers. Though the fabric looked expensive even in dim light, his black hair fell loose past his shoulders. Without throne and crowd and ceremony, he looked different, still otherworldly, still dangerous, but somehow more real. Open it, he said to someone Honora couldn't see. Keys jangled. The iron door swung inward with a groan that echoed through stone passages. Dorian stepped inside. The door closed behind him with a metallic clang that made Honora's stomach drop. They were alone. Sit. He gestured to the bench. Honora remained standing. I prefer not to. His eyebrow raised fractionally. You realize I could compel you. Then you'd have to, Your Majesty. Her voice was steadier than she felt. My mother taught me that dignity isn't given. It's claimed. Something flickered in his gray eyes. Not quite amusement. Not quite respect. Something in between. Your mother sounds wise. She was, before the Hartley family cast her out for loving a common man. Hartley. Dorian's voice was thoughtful. Lady Genevieve's family. My distant cousin, yes. Though she'd sooner die than acknowledge the connection. Honora met his gaze directly. 22 years of being invisible had taught her when to hide and when to stand firm. This felt like a standing moment. Dorian studied her with unsettling intensity. His eyes weren't just gray, she realized. They held flecks of silver that caught torchlight. Tell me what you saw tonight. Everything. Leave nothing out. Honora described the 3 servants again. Their synchronized movements. The vial disappearing into the pitcher. The way they'd positioned themselves to watch without being watched. She described the scar, the ring, the limp. Every detail her trained eyes had captured. You notice things others miss, Dorian said when she finished. Servants are invisible, Your Majesty. We see everything, because no one sees us. Except I saw you. His head tilted slightly. You stepped out of the shadows deliberately. Knew it would cost you. Why? Because it was right. Many people know what's right. Few act on it when the price is high. Honora had no answer for that. She'd moved on instinct. Reaction instead of thought. Explaining it felt impossible. Dorian moved closer. Not threatening exactly, but deliberate. He stopped 3 paces away. Look at me. She already was. His gray-silver eyes locked onto hers. Honora felt something push against her mind. Gentle pressure, like someone trying to open a door she hadn't realized was there. Tell me your name. His voice carried weight now. Layers beneath layers. Honora Whalen. The words came automatically, but wrong somehow. She should have wanted to say them. Instead, they felt pulled. The pressure increased. Why did you really disrupt the ceremony? I told you. The poison. Her head throbbed. She blinked hard, breaking eye contact. The pressure vanished instantly. Dorian stepped back. Surprise crossed his features. Genuine surprise. Fascinating. What did you just do? Compulsion. An ability my kind possesses. He circled her slowly, studying. It works on all humans. Makes them truthful, compliant, useful for interrogations. It didn't work on me. He studied her, then tested the pressure again. Compulsion, the old vampire trick. It slid off her like rain off slate. Rare blood. He conceded, not apologizing, only revising his estimate of the girl who'd thrown a tray at death. Honora's hands curled into fists. You tried to control my mind. I tried to verify your story. There's a difference. No apology in his voice. Just fact. The 3 servants you described are vampires. Members of my court. Specifically, they serve Lord Theron Ashcroft, my chief counselor. Your counselor tried to poison you? So it appears. Dorian's expression hardened. Ambitious fools often mistake patience for weakness. Theron has wanted my throne for decades. Tonight he made his move. What will you do? That depends on what we find. He moved toward the cell door, then paused. You're free to go. You'll be moved to chambers in the royal wing, under my personal protection. Honora's breath caught. Protection? I'm just a servant. You're a servant who saved my life and possesses blood that resists compulsion. That makes you valuable. And vulnerable. Theron will want you dead once he realizes you identified his assassins. The weight of his words sank in slowly. She'd saved a king, become a witness to treason, made herself a target. All in the space of throwing a tray. I don't want to be valuable, Honora said quietly. I just want to serve wine and avoid notice. Too late for that. Dorian's voice was almost gentle. Almost. Welcome to the game, Honora Whalen. You're a piece on the board now, whether you want to be or not. The cell door opened. A guard appeared. Your Majesty, we found the 3 servants. And? Dead, sire. All 3. Throats torn out. Bodies dumped in the east courtyard. Looks like they've been dead since before dawn. Dorian's jaw tightened. Theron is eliminating witnesses. He turned to Honora. This confirms it. You're in danger. Tarek, escort Miss Whalen to the blue chambers. Post guards. No one enters except on my direct order. Yes, Your Majesty. Before Honora could protest, footsteps thundered down the corridor. A woman burst past the guards. Red hair wild. Flour still dusting her apron. Honora! Stars above. What did you do? Marin grabbed her friend's shoulders. The whole castle is talking. You threw a tray at the king during the ceremony? It's complicated. Complicated? They're saying you tried to assassinate him. That you're a spy. That you're mad. Marin's freckled face was pale. "I've been looking for you everywhere." "Miss..." Dorian's voice cut through the reunion. "Marin..." "Kitchen staff." Marin curtsied quickly. "Forgive me, Your Majesty. I didn't mean to intrude. Your friend is under my protection now. She saved my life tonight, not threatened it. Anyone spreading rumors otherwise will answer to me personally." Marin's eyes went wide. "You're protecting her?" "I am." A commotion erupted from the dungeon entrance. Voices raised, guards arguing. Then Lady Genevieve swept into view, 2 personal guards flanking her. Her golden hair was perfect despite the late hour. Her blue dress immaculate. "There you are." Genevieve's voice dripped ice. "The servant who ruined everything." "Lady Genevieve." Dorian's tone held warning. "I ordered the noble families escorted out at dawn. Why are you still in my castle?" "Because that creature cost me my future." Genevieve pointed at Honora. "I was about to receive your final consideration when she deliberately sabotaged the ceremony. I demand justice." "You demand?" Dorian's eyes went cold. "In my castle, from me." Genevieve faltered but pressed on. "Your Majesty, surely you see the coincidence. A servant from my own family's castle. A rejected blood relation my father mentioned once. She was jealous. She wanted revenge for my family's success while hers fell to nothing." "Is this true?" Dorian looked at Honora. "Your connection to the Hartley family?" "My mother was cast out for loving a common man." Honora met Genevieve's glare without flinching. "I serve in the castle because I need to eat, not because I care about your family's precious reputation." "Lies," Genevieve hissed. "She planned this. Probably working with whoever poisoned the wine. A distraction. A spectacle. 3 vampires poisoned the wine," Dorian said flatly. 3 vampires who are now conveniently dead. Miss Whalen identified them clearly. Saved my life. And possesses blood that resists compulsion, which means I've verified her story through means you cannot imagine. The color drained from Genevieve's face. "But the ceremony is over. You were rejected, Lady Genevieve. Not by sabotage. By my choice. Accept it with grace or leave now in disgrace." Genevieve's composure cracked. Her perfect mask slipped, showing fury beneath. "You'd choose a servant over me? Over noble blood? Over alliance with the most powerful duchy in the kingdom? I choose what serves my interests." Dorian's voice dropped to something dangerous. "Your family name means nothing if you cannot recognize when you've been dismissed." He moved past Genevieve toward the corridor, then stopped. Turned. The entire dungeon seemed to hold its breath. "Miss Whalen is under my protection now. Anyone who threatens her, speaks ill of her, or so much as looks at her wrong will answer to me personally. She is mine to protect. Mine to question. Mine." His gray eyes swept the assembled crowd. Guards. Servants. Lady Genevieve frozen in shock. Does anyone have questions about that? Silence. Honora felt the weight of those words settle over her shoulders. Like a cloak. Like chains. Like safety and danger wrapped together in a declaration she didn't fully understand. "Good." Dorian gestured to Tarek. "Escort Lady Genevieve to the gates. She leaves tonight, not at dawn. Her guards can accompany her. Your Majesty, please." Genevieve's voice cracked. "I traveled for weeks. My family expects... Your family will receive a formal letter explaining that no choice was made tonight due to attempted assassination. You specifically will not be reconsidered in future ceremonies due to your behavior this evening. That's my final word." Genevieve fled. Her guards scrambled to follow. The sound of her sobbing echoed up the stone stairwell. Marin grabbed Honora's hand and squeezed. "What just happened?" Honora stared at the Vampire King's retreating back as he ascended toward the castle proper. His words echoed in her mind. "She is mine." "I have no idea," Honora whispered. "But I think my life just changed completely." Chapter 3. Secrets in Stone. 7 nights changed everything. The blue chambers were larger than any space Honora had ever occupied. Silk curtains, a feather mattress. Windows overlooking the western gardens where moonlight painted the hedges silver. She woke each dawn in disbelief, half expecting to find herself back in the servants' quarters. But the guards outside her door reminded her this was real. Protection. prison, both. Dorian visited each evening to teach her about vampire politics. Not out of kindness, he'd made clear, but necessity. "You're a witness to treason," he'd said on the second night. "You need to understand what you've walked into." So Honora learned about the vampire houses scattered across Europe, the ancient treaties written in blood, the delicate balance between vampire and human kingdoms, the council of elders who advised but didn't rule, and Lord Theron Ashcroft, the king's chief counselor for 2 centuries, ambitious and patient and dangerous. "He'll try again," Dorian had warned. "Men like Theron don't surrender power easily." Tonight was the formal dinner, a gathering of vampire nobility to discuss the failed ceremony. Honora had insisted on serving despite Dorian's protests. Sitting in chambers learning theory was one thing. Watching actual politics unfold was another, and servants saw everything. The dining hall glittered with candlelight. Dozens of vampires sat at the long table, their pale faces beautiful and terrible. Honora moved between them, pouring wine from silver pitchers, invisible again in her servant's dress. It felt comfortable. Safe. Lord Theron sat 3 seats from Dorian. Black-haired, red-eyed, handsome in a way that made Honora's skin crawl. He spoke eloquently about restoring order after the ceremony's disruption. His voice carried concern, loyalty, perfect acting. She watched his hands, his eyes, the micro-expressions her mother taught her to read. Theron was performing, every word calculated. Through the tall windows, Honora glimpsed movement in the night gardens. 3 figures walking between hedges under moonlight. She recognized golden hair, Genevieve's unmistakable posture. The lady had left. Honora had watched her depart the castle 7 nights ago. So why was she back? Honora refilled goblets slowly, working her way toward the windows. The figures moved deeper into the garden, away from torchlight, toward the old rose arbor where shadows gathered thick. More wine. A vampire courtier held up his cup without looking at her. "Of course, my lord." Honora poured, then drifted casually toward the next guest, closer to the windows. Angle better now. She could see the 3 figures clearly. Genevieve, Duke Hartley, and Lord Theron. They stood in a tight circle. Theron gestured as he spoke. Duke Hartley nodded repeatedly. Genevieve's face was animated, eager. This wasn't casual conversation. This was conspiracy. "Girl!" Another vampire snapped fingers at her. "Wine! Now!" Honora tore her gaze away. Served. Moved on. But her mind raced. Why would Theron meet secretly with the Hartley family? What could they possibly offer each other? The dinner dragged on for 2 more hours. Political discussions, trade agreements, territorial disputes. Honora served and listened and watched Theron's performance of perfect loyalty. But she'd seen what happened in the gardens, seen the truth beneath the mask. When the vampires finally dispersed near midnight, Honora slipped away from the other servants. She needed to think, to process what she'd witnessed. Her feet carried her toward the castle's oldest wing, the library, a place she'd discovered 3 nights ago while exploring. Ancient books lined shelves that stretched to vaulted ceilings. Knowledge accumulated over centuries. Quiet, empty, perfect for thinking. Torches burned low in their brackets. Honora moved between towering shelves, trailing her fingers along leather spines. Some books were so old, the titles had faded to nothing. Others were written in languages she couldn't read. Footsteps echoed through the stacks. Honora froze, pressed herself into shadows between shelves, held her breath. Lord Theron appeared carrying a candle. Alone. His red eyes scanned the library methodically. He moved toward a section in the far corner. The oldest books. Manuscripts on crumbling parchment. Scrolls tied with rotting ribbon. He set down his candle and began searching. Pulling books. Opening them. Discarding them. Looking for something specific. Honora crept closer. Silent as smoke. Her mother had taught her how to move without sound. How to be invisible even when visible. Theron found what he wanted. A thick tome bound in black leather. He opened it carefully, pages crackling. His finger traced lines of text. There. He breathed. The scepter of blood. Honora's pulse quickened. She edged around a shelf for a better view. The book showed an illustration. A scepter carved from dark metal, topped with a crimson stone. Text surrounded the image in cramped handwriting. Symbol of supreme authority. Theron read quietly to himself. Wielded by the first vampire king. Lost for 3 centuries. He who claims it claims dominion over all vampire kind. A political weapon. Something to challenge Dorian's throne without outright war. Honora's mind raced through implications. She needed to see that book. Learn everything about this scepter before Theron could use it. But as she shifted position, her boot scraped stone. Theron's head snapped up. "Who's there?" Honora ran. Behind her, Theron's footsteps exploded into supernatural speed. Vampires moved faster than humans. Much faster. She had seconds at best. She burst from the library into the corridor, turned left, then right. The castle was a maze. Servants knew paths. Nobles didn't. Narrow passages, hidden stairs. Theron's voice echoed behind her. "You can't escape, girl." Honora ducked into a servant's passage. Narrow stone, barely wide enough for her shoulders. Too small for someone Theron's size. She sprinted through darkness, hands trailing walls for guidance. The passage opened into a storage room. Honora grabbed a broom handle, wedged it through the door handles. It wouldn't hold long, but might buy seconds. She kept moving. Through the kitchens, past the ovens where Marin would be working in a few hours, out into the east courtyard. Cold night air hit her lungs. Stars burned overhead. The courtyard was empty, except for... Theron stepped from the shadows ahead of her. His red eyes glowed in darkness. "Clever route, but I'm 300 years old. I know every passage in this castle." Honora backed away. Her hands found a rock from the courtyard garden. Not much of a weapon. Better than nothing. "What were you doing in the library?" Theron moved forward slowly. Deliberately. "Spying again? Just like during the ceremony?" "I was reading." Honora's voice was steadier than she felt. "Is that forbidden? Reading books about ancient relics that could threaten the king?" "Yes, that's very much forbidden." His smile showed fangs. "You're becoming a significant problem. The king knows I'm here. The king thinks you're safe in your chambers. By the time he realizes you're missing, this will be over." Theron's hand moved to the dagger at his belt. "Nothing personal. Just politics." Honora threw the rock. Theron caught it midair without looking. Crushed it to powder. She ran again. Toward the main castle entrance. Toward guards. Toward anywhere with witnesses. Theron appeared in front of her. Impossibly fast. His hand closed around her throat. Lifted her off the ground. Honora's vision blurred. She clawed at his fingers. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't scream. Such a shame. Theron's voice was almost kind. "If you just stayed invisible like a good servant, you'd still be alive." Darkness crept into Honora's peripheral vision. Her struggles weakened. This was it. Death in a courtyard. Killed for reading the wrong book. Theron flew backward. No. Was thrown. His grip vanished from Honora's throat. She collapsed onto cold stone, gasping. Dorian stood between them. Black hair wild, gray eyes blazing silver. He'd moved too fast to see. Just suddenly was there. "You dare!" His voice carried fury that made the air vibrate. "In my castle, under my protection." Theron rose slowly. His confident mask cracked, showing fear beneath. "Your Majesty, I found her spying in the library, stealing information about the scepter of blood." Dorian finished. "Yes, I heard everything." He glanced at Honora. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. Couldn't speak yet. Her throat felt bruised. "She was spying," Theron insisted. "For who, I don't know. But she's clearly working against your interests." "Is she?" Dorian's tone was flat, dangerous. "Tell me, Theron, why were you researching the scepter? What use does my loyal counselor have for a relic that threatens my throne?" "Academic interest, nothing more. Academic interest doesn't justify attacking someone under my personal protection." Dorian's hand rested on his sword hilt. "I should execute you here. Now. Without proof?" Theron found his confidence again. Without trial before the council? Your Majesty, you know the laws as well as I do. Even counselors have rights. The words hung in cold air. Honora watched Dorian's jaw tighten. Political chains. He wanted to kill Theron, but couldn't without proof, without following proper procedures. You're right, Dorian said finally. The council must be consulted. Evidence presented formally. He stepped closer to Theron. But know this. Touch her again. Look at her wrong. Breathe in her direction. And laws won't save you. I'll tear you apart personally. Theron bowed stiffly. Of course, Your Majesty. My apologies for the misunderstanding. He retreated toward the castle, paused at the entrance. Though I must warn you, the council grows concerned about your attachment to a human servant. Some question your judgment. He disappeared inside. Dorian helped Honora stand. His hand was cold but gentle. Can you walk? I think so. Good. We're going to the library. Show me exactly what you saw. What he was looking for. Everything. They made their way back through silent corridors. The library felt different now. Threatening instead of peaceful. Knowledge that could kill. Honora led Dorian to the section where Theron had searched. Found the black leather tome still lying open on the reading table. Dorian studied the illustration of the scepter, read the text surrounding it. His expression grew darker with each line. This is worse than I thought. He turned pages carefully. The scepter is real. I believed it destroyed 300 years ago during the clan wars. If Theron knows where to find it, there's more. Honora pulled another scroll from a lower shelf, something she'd glimpsed while hiding. The parchment was ancient, crackling when she unrolled it. The text was faded but readable. A warning written in elaborate script. The scepter of blood grants power to he who wields it. But beware, for ambition carries a curse. The relic drains the life of those who grasp for dominion rather than earn it through service. Many have fallen to its dark promise. Dorian read it twice. A cursed relic. Of course. He looked at Honora with something approaching respect. You found this yourself? I'm good at noticing things others miss. Honora's throat still ached, but her voice was returning. In the gardens earlier, I saw Theron meeting with Genevieve and Duke Hartley. Secret conversation. Very suspicious. Hartley. Dorian's eyes narrowed. Building alliances. Planning something larger than simple assassination. Something white caught Honora's eye. A folded parchment lying beneath the reading table. She knelt and retrieved it. The paper was fine quality, sealed with red wax. The seal broken. Honora opened it carefully. The handwriting was elegant. Female. My dearest Theron, Father agrees to your terms. When you take the throne, I shall be your queen as promised. Our family will provide soldiers and gold for your cause. The Hartley name will rise from this humiliation. Genevieve. Evidence. Clear. Undeniable. Conspiracy written in ink. She must have dropped it during their meeting. Honora handed the letter to Dorian. Proof of what they're planning. Dorian read it. Something dangerous flickered across his features. Not quite a smile. Too cold for that. Finally, something concrete. He folded the letter carefully, slipped it inside his tunic. You've done well tonight, Honora. Very well. I just wanted to read in peace, and instead stumbled onto treason. He guided her toward the library exit. This changes everything. Tomorrow night there will be a formal council session. With this letter and your testimony about the garden meeting, I can move against Theron officially. They walked through corridors toward the royal wing. Guards snapped to attention as Dorian passed. Servants pressed themselves against walls. At the door to Honora's chambers, Dorian paused. You saved my life twice now. First with the poisoned wine, now with this evidence. I won't forget that. I didn't do it for gratitude. Honora met his gray eyes. I did it because it was right. Most people do what's safe, not what's right. His gaze held hers for a long moment. You're different. So are you. The words escaped before Honora could stop them. Most vampire kings would have killed Theron tonight, laws or not, but you didn't. Because unlike Theron, I don't let ambition override my principles. Dorian's expression softened slightly. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be dangerous. The council won't accept this evidence easily. Some of them support Theron in secret. Will you be safe? Are you worried about me? There was almost warmth in his voice. Almost. You're the only thing standing between me and Theron's dagger. Honora said practically. So yes, selfishly, I'm worried. This time he did smile. Small. Genuine. It transformed his face completely, made him look less like carved marble, and more like a man who'd lived 6 centuries and was tired of games. I'll be careful, he promised. You do the same. He left her at the door. Honora entered her chambers and collapsed onto the silk-covered bed. Her hands shook now that the danger had passed. Her throat throbbed where Theron had gripped it. She'd been in the castle 1 week, saved a king's life twice, become a witness to conspiracy, nearly died in a courtyard, found evidence that could spark a war, and somehow, impossibly, started to see the Vampire King as something more than a monster from stories. Outside her window, dawn approached. The first hint of gray touching the eastern sky. Vampires would retreat to their chambers soon. Daylight belonged to humans. But night would come again. It always did. And with it, more danger. Chapter 4. Blood and Revelation. 3 nights passed in uneasy quiet. The council session had been delayed. Political maneuvering. Theron gathering support among the vampire houses. Dorian building his case with methodical patience. Honora spent the days studying vampire law in the library. Ancient texts. Treaties written in languages that took hours to translate. The more she learned, the more she understood why Dorian couldn't simply execute Theron. Vampire politics ran deeper than human comprehension. Centuries of tradition, blood oaths, power balanced on edges sharper than swords. On the 3rd night, Dorian came to her chambers near midnight. His expression was grave. The council meets at dawn. But first, we need to ensure your protection is absolute. He gestured to the door. Come with me. Honora followed him through passages that descended deep beneath the castle. Stone stairs worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. The air grew colder, damper, ancient. They emerged into a circular chamber carved from bedrock. 12 vampires stood waiting. Elders. Honora recognized them from formal dinners. Ancient beings who'd lived longer than kingdoms. Their eyes tracked her movement with predatory precision. In the chamber's center stood a stone altar. Dark stains marked its surface. Blood from rituals past. How many? Honora couldn't guess. This is the sanctum. Dorian's voice echoed off stone walls. Where blood pacts are sealed, witnessed, made unbreakable. An elder with silver hair stepped forward. His eyes were pale blue, nearly white. Your Majesty, you wish to bind yourself to this human through formal pact? I do. Such bonds are permanent. Her life becomes tied to yours. Her death would weaken you significantly. Her betrayal would destroy you. The elder's gaze shifted to Honora. Do you understand what you're agreeing to, girl? Honora's mouth was dry. The king explained. A blood pact creates magical protection, makes me harder to kill, connects our minds. It does far more than that. Another elder spoke. Female, dark-skinned, ancient beyond measure. You'll feel his emotions, his pain, his hunger, and he'll feel yours. There are no secrets in a blood bond. No lies, no hiding. Dorian met Honora's eyes. You can refuse. I'll find other ways to protect you. Will they work as well? No. Honora thought of Theron's hand around her throat, the certainty of death she'd felt in that courtyard. If this pact kept her alive long enough to see justice done, it was worth any price. I accept. The elders formed a circle around the altar. Dorian guided Honora to stand before the blood-stained stone. He removed a ceremonial dagger from his belt. Silver blade, black hilt carved with symbols that hurt to look at directly. Your hand, he said gently. Honora extended her right hand. Dorian's fingers were cold as he turned her palm upward. The blade cut swift and clean. Pain bloomed bright. Blood welled dark red against her pale skin. Dorian cut his own palm without hesitation. His blood was darker than hers. almost black in the torchlight. "Speak the words with me." He positioned their bleeding hands above the altar. "Blood to blood, life to life, I bind myself willingly. Blood to blood, life to life, I bind myself willingly." Honora's voice shook, but held steady. Their palms pressed together. Blood mingled, flowed over the altar stone in rivulets that seemed to glow faintly. Heat rushed up Honora's arm. Not painful. Something else. Something that felt like lightning and fire and ice all at once. The elders began chanting. Old words. Ancient language that predated Latin. The chamber's temperature plummeted. Honora's breath fogged. Her knees weakened, but Dorian's free hand steadied her. Then it hit. The connection. Emotions flooded through her mind. Not hers. His. 6 centuries of weariness. Loneliness deeper than oceans. Duty that weighed heavier than mountains. And beneath it all, something warm, small, growing, interest, fascination. The beginning of something he'd thought dead 400 years ago. Care. Honora gasped. Her own emotions must be bleeding into him equally. Her fear, her determination, her strange certainty that this vampire king, this ancient predator, was somehow more honorable than most humans she'd known. The chanting stopped. The heat faded, but the connection remained. Quieter now. Background presence. She could feel him there, not his thoughts exactly, but his essence. Real, undeniable. Dorian released her hand. Their wounds had already healed. No scars, just dried blood marking where the pact was sealed. "It's done," the silver-haired elder announced. "The bond is witnessed and accepted. Honora Whalen is now under the personal protection of the Vampire King through blood pact. Any harm done to her is harm done to him. Any who break this bond answer to all of us." The elders filed out silently. Honora stood trembling beside the altar. The weight of what just happened pressed down on her shoulders. "Are you all right?" Dorian's voice was soft, concerned. "I felt everything. Your loneliness, your exhaustion." She looked up at him. "How do you carry all that?" "You learn. Over centuries." He guided her toward the stairs. "Come. There's more we need to discuss before the council." They returned to his private study. Maps covered the walls, books stacked on every surface. Evidence of a mind that never stopped working, never stopped planning. Dorian poured wine, handed her a cup. "About the scepter. The curse you found described in that scroll. I need you to tell me everything." Honora recounted the exact words. The warning about ambition. How the relic drained those who grasped for power rather than earning it. Dorian listened intently. When she finished, he moved to his desk, pulled out additional scrolls. Texts even older than the ones in the library. "I knew about the scepter," he admitted. "It was real. 300 years ago, during the clan wars, it was used by a vampire named Valdris. He claimed dominion over 6 kingdoms, nearly succeeded." Dorian's jaw tightened. But he grew weak, paranoid. Finally collapsed during battle. "We believed the scepter destroyed in the aftermath, but it wasn't. Clearly not." He spread a map across his desk. "I've had scholars researching since you found that book. They've confirmed a location. Old monastery ruins. 4 nights' ride north in good weather. Abandoned for 2 centuries. Honora leaned over the map. Her finger traced the route marked in red ink. "That's where it is?" "According to 5 separate sources, yes." Dorian's expression darkened. "My spies also report that Theron has been making inquiries. Gathering supplies for a journey. Small group. Fast travel. He's going after it. He leaves in 2 days." Dorian met her eyes. "We need to get there first. Destroy the scepter before he can use it as a symbol to challenge my authority. Why not send an army? Because that would alert him. He'd adjust his plans. Possibly hide the scepter elsewhere." Dorian's finger tapped the map. "A small group. Fast horses. Travel only at night. We arrive first. Destroy the relic. Return before he realizes we've moved." "We?" Honora's stomach dropped. "You're taking me? You're the only one who knows the curse's details. If something goes wrong, I need someone who understands what we're dealing with. He paused. And you're under blood pact now. Safer with me than here where Theron's allies could strike. A commotion erupted in the corridor outside. Raised voices, footsteps running. Dorian's hand moved to his sword hilt instantly. The study door burst open. Guards struggled to restrain someone. Golden hair wild, blue dress torn. Genevieve fought them with surprising strength. "Let me speak," she screamed. "I have rights. My family has rights." Dorian's voice cut through chaos. "Release her, but stay close." The guard stepped back. Genevieve stumbled forward. Her perfect composure completely shattered. Mascara streaked her face. Bruises darkened her wrists where she'd been restrained. "Your Majesty." She dropped to her knees. "Please, that servant has poisoned your mind with lies. I would never conspire against you. Never. You wrote a letter to Theron," Honora said quietly, "promising him your hand when he takes the throne, offering your father's soldiers and gold." Genevieve's face went white. "I don't know what you're talking about." Dorian pulled the letter from his tunic, unfolded it, read aloud. "My dearest Theron, Father agrees to your terms. When you take the throne, I shall be your queen as promised." His gray eyes were arctic. "Your handwriting, Lady Genevieve. Your seal. Your words." "She forged it." Genevieve pointed at Honora. "Servants know how to copy writing. She's framing me, trying to eliminate competition." "Competition?" Dorian's laugh held no warmth. "I rejected you during the ceremony. There is no competition. Because of her." Genevieve's voice rose to a shriek. "She bewitched you, used dark magic. She's a witch pretending to be a servant." The accusation hung in air. Witchcraft was serious, even among vampires. Magic that could compel kings was rare, dangerous, if enough people believed it. Honora felt Dorian's emotions through the bond. Not doubt, certainty. He knew she wasn't a witch. The blood pact would have revealed any magic in her blood. "Lady Genevieve," Dorian's voice was final. "You are hereby exiled from this castle and all territories under my direct control. You have until dawn to gather your belongings and leave. If you return, you will be executed for treason." "No," Genevieve sobbed. "Please, my family will disown me. I'll have nothing." "You should have considered that before conspiring with traitors." Dorian gestured to the guards. "Remove her." They dragged Genevieve away. Her screams echoed through stone corridors, growing fainter. Then silent. A different figure appeared in the doorway. Duke Hartley, older, gray-bearded. His eyes burned with fury. "You've made an enemy today, Vampire King." His voice was controlled, dangerous. "My family has supported vampire rule for generations. This insult will not be forgotten." "Your daughter conspired to overthrow me," Dorian said flatly. "That's not insult. That's justice. Justice would be investigating properly, allowing her to defend herself before the full council." Duke Hartley's hands clenched into fists. "Instead, you believe a servant girl over noble blood. You bind yourself to common trash through blood pact." He spat. "You've gone mad. Leave my castle, now." "Gladly." The Duke turned, paused. "But know this. House Hartley withdraws its support. Our gold, our soldiers, our alliance, and we're not alone. Other families question your judgment, your obsession with that girl." He pointed at Honora. "You're weakening your own throne. And when it falls, don't expect us to mourn." He left. The study fell into heavy silence. Honora felt Dorian's emotions through the bond. Not fear, not doubt. Grim determination mixed with anger. He'd expected this, known the cost, chosen it anyway. "That's going to complicate things," Dorian said finally. "I'm sorry," Honora whispered. "This is my fault." "No." He moved to the window, stared out at darkness. "This has been building for decades. Theron, the Hartleys, other ambitious houses. You just forced their hand sooner than they planned." He turned. "Which gives us advantage. They're not fully prepared. We can still win this, by getting to the scepter first." "Exactly." Dorian returned to the map. "We leave tomorrow night. You, me. 2 loyal guards I trust absolutely. Marin, if she wishes to accompany us. Marin? Your friend. She should be given the choice. This journey is dangerous. But leaving her here is equally risky. Theron knows you're close. His expression softened slightly. The bond makes me protective of those you care about. Strange feeling after so long. Honora studied him. 600 years old. Powerful enough to destroy armies. Yet standing in his study planning a desperate journey to prevent civil war. Protecting a servant girl because she'd thrown a tray to save his life. Why did you really create the blood pact? She asked. You could have assigned more guards. Locked me in the highest tower. Why bind yourself to me? Through the bond, she felt his hesitation. His struggle with honesty. Finally, words came. Because I'm tired of being alone. Because your blood resists compulsion. Which means you might be the only person in 6 centuries who can't be forced to betray me. Because when I look at you, I see someone who acts on principle instead of politics. He met her eyes. Because I haven't felt alive in 400 years. And then a 22-year-old servant girl threw a tray across my throne room without fear. Without calculation. Just because it was right. The weight of his confession hung between them. Truth forced through blood bond. No hiding. No pretense. We should rest, Dorian said finally. Tomorrow night begins a dangerous journey. One that might determine the future of every vampire in Europe. Honora nodded. Started toward the door. Stopped. Dorian, for what it's worth, I don't regret throwing that tray. And I don't regret the blood pact. Something that might have been a smile crossed his features. Neither do I. And that terrifies me. Chapter 5. Journey into Darkness. They left Castle Valengard at dusk. 5 riders on dark horses. Dorian led, black hair streaming behind him. Honora rode beside him, still learning to sit a saddle properly. Behind them came Gideon and Lysander, vampire guards who'd served Dorian for a century, and Marin, who'd insisted on coming despite Honora's protests. You think I'm letting you ride into danger without me? Marin had said while packing supplies in the kitchen. We've been friends since we were children. I'm not abandoning you now. The first night passed in tense silence. They rode through forests where moonlight barely penetrated the canopy. Ancient trees pressed close on either side. Occasionally, Honora caught glimpses of glowing eyes watching from the darkness. Wolves, maybe. Or worse things. Dawn approached too quickly. Dorian led them to a cave hidden behind a waterfall. The entrance was narrow, barely wide enough for the horses. Inside, the cavern opened into a space large enough for all of them. We rest here until sunset, Dorian said, dismounting. Gideon, take first watch at the entrance. Lysander, check the back passages. Make sure we're alone. The vampires moved with supernatural efficiency. Within minutes, they'd secured the cave and started a small fire. Honora had never seen vampires sleep before. They didn't lie down, didn't close their eyes, just became completely still, like statues carved from pale marble. Marin sat beside Honora near the fire. This is insane. Her voice was barely audible. We're riding toward vampire rebels and ancient cursed relics. What are we doing? Trying to prevent a war. Honora stared into flames. Through the blood bond, she could feel Dorian even in his daylight rest. His presence was constant now, comforting in ways she didn't fully understand. You care about him, Marin said quietly. The king. I can see it in how you look at him. It's complicated. It always is with vampires. Marin's freckled face was serious. Just be careful. They're not like us. They live for centuries. We're mayflies to them. But Dorian didn't make Honora feel temporary. The blood bond connected them in ways that transcended time. She could feel his loneliness, his weariness, the weight of 600 years pressing down on shoulders that never stopped carrying duty. The second night brought them through farmland. Villages dotted the landscape. Humans slept in their cottages, while vampires rode past like shadows. Honora watched smoke curl from chimneys, heard dogs bark in the distance. Normal life continuing while they chased ancient relics through darkness. They sheltered the second day in an abandoned barn. Hay still filled the loft. The smell of old animals lingered. Gideon found a family of mice living in the corner. He watched them with detached curiosity, while Marin made a simple meal of bread and cheese. "How long have you served the king?" Honora asked Gideon while they waited for sunset. 117 years. His voice was deep, measured. He saved me from execution. I'd killed a nobleman who'd murdered my sister. The human courts wanted my head. King Dorian offered transformation instead. "Do you regret it? Becoming vampire?" Gideon was quiet for a long moment. "I regret that I had to die to find justice. But I don't regret serving a king who values honor over politics." Lysander added from his position near the door. "Most vampire lords rule through fear. King Dorian rules through respect. That's rare, worth protecting." The third night, they made camp in a clearing surrounded by ancient oaks. No caves nearby, no shelter. Just open sky and stars bright enough to read by. Dorian judged they were far enough from civilization that a fire wouldn't draw unwanted attention. Honora sat close to the flames, warming her hands. The night air had grown cold. Spring hadn't fully chased away winter's bite. Marin had fallen asleep wrapped in blankets. Gideon and Lysander patrolled the perimeter. Dorian sat across from Honora, his gray eyes reflecting firelight. Through the bond, she felt his contemplative mood, melancholy mixed with something warmer. "You're thinking about someone," Honora said quietly. "Someone from long ago. The bond makes you perceptive." He smiled slightly. "Or perhaps you were always perceptive." "Yes. I'm thinking about Elena, my companion. 400 years ago. What happened to her? She was human when we met. A healer in a village ravaged by plague. I came to investigate rumors of supernatural involvement. Found her instead, caring for the dying when everyone else had fled." His voice grew distant. "She had your same stubbornness, your same refusal to abandon what was right. You loved her." "I did. Offered her transformation. She accepted. We had 50 years together." Dorian's hands clenched. Then a sickness came. Something that affected vampires. A blood plague. It killed dozens, including her. I held her while she died and couldn't do anything to stop it. Honora felt his pain through the bond. Old grief. Never fully healed. "I'm sorry. I swore after that I'd never bind myself to anyone again. The pain of losing her was too much." He met Honora's eyes. "But then a servant girl threw a tray across my throne room, and suddenly I was willing to risk that pain again." "Why?" "Because you reminded me what it feels like to be alive instead of just existing." His voice was raw, honest. 600 years is a long time to be alone. Honora moved around the fire, sat beside him. Their shoulders touched. "My mother told me stories before she died, about how she'd fallen in love with my father despite her family's fury, how they'd cast her out, stripped her of title and inheritance." She stared into flames. "She said dignity wasn't something nobles gave you. It was something you claimed for yourself. She taught you well. She taught me that love matters more than status, that acting with honor matters more than being comfortable." Honora looked at him. "That's why I threw the tray. Why I'm riding into danger now. Because she raised me to do what's right even when it's hard." Dorian's hand found hers. His skin was cold, but his grip was gentle. "I would have liked to meet her. She would have liked you too. Once she got past the whole vampire king thing." They sat in comfortable silence while the fire crackled. Above them, stars wheeled slowly across an endless sky. For a moment, the danger ahead didn't matter. The political intrigue, the cursed relic, just two people sharing warmth in darkness. The fourth night brought them to the monastery ruins. Ancient stone walls rose against the night sky like broken teeth. The building had been magnificent once. Now only fragments remained, collapsed archways, shattered windows, a bell tower leaning dangerously to one side. "This is it." Dorian dismounted, his hand on his sword hilt. "Everyone stay alert." They approached cautiously. The ruins were silent. Too silent. No birds, no insects. Just wind whistling through broken stone. Then Honora saw the horses, dozens of them tethered in what had once been the monastery courtyard, and figures moving between the ruins, red eyes glowing in shadow. "He's already here." Dorian's voice was flat. "Dangerous." Theron stepped from behind a collapsed wall. 20 vampires flanked him. and behind them, human soldiers in armor. Duke Hartley's men. Their tabards bore the family crest. Your Majesty. Theron's smile was cold. How unexpected. I thought you'd be busy with council duties. Theron. Dorian drew his sword, a blade that gleamed silver in moonlight. Step away from the monastery. This doesn't have to end in bloodshed. But that's exactly how it will end. Theron raised his hand. In it, he held a scepter carved from dark metal. The crimson stone atop it pulsed with sickly light. I found it an hour ago. Did you know it was hidden in the old crypt? Took some digging. Literally, the scepter of blood. Ancient, powerful, cursed. Honora felt its wrongness even from this distance. Like standing near something that shouldn't exist. That relic is cursed, Honora called out. It drains the life of those who grasp for power through ambition rather than service. Lies. Theron laughed. Propaganda spread by kings who feared losing their thrones. But thank you for confirming what I already knew. Your king is desperate enough to bring his human pet along. Kill them, Theron ordered. All except the king. I want him to watch his people die before he kneels. The rebel vampires attacked. The human soldiers raised crossbows. And the night exploded into violence. Gideon moved faster than Honora's eyes could follow. His sword cut through 2 vampires before they could react. Lysander fought beside him, blocking attacks meant for Honora and Marin. Dorian engaged Theron directly. Their swords clashed with sounds like thunder. Sparks flew where metal met metal. Both vampires moved with supernatural speed. A dance of death too fast for mortal eyes. An arrow whistled past Honora's head. She dove behind a broken wall. Marin scrambled after her, breathing hard. We need to help somehow. Marin grabbed a fallen sword. The blade was heavy, meant for men larger than her. But she held it steady. 3 human soldiers rounded the corner, saw the 2 women, advanced with weapons drawn. Honora picked up a rock. It wasn't much, but it was something. She threw it hard, caught one soldier in the face. He stumbled. Marin swung the sword wildly. More luck than skill. The blade caught another soldier's arm. He screamed, retreated. Gideon appeared, dispatched all 3 soldiers in seconds. Stay down, he ordered. Let us handle. A rebel vampire tackled him from behind. They tumbled into rubble. Fighting with claws and fangs. Primal. Vicious. Lysander fought off 4 attackers at once. His sword was a blur of silver. But there were too many. A blade slipped past his guard, pierced his side. He gasped, staggered. No! Honora started toward him. A rebel vampire grabbed her from behind, lifted her off the ground. She kicked, scratched, couldn't break free. Gideon roared, threw off his attacker, sprinted toward Honora, tackled the vampire holding her. They crashed into stone wall. The rebels' grip loosened. Honora fell free, but more rebels converged. 6 of them. Too many even for Gideon. Run! Gideon shouted. Get the girl away from here. Lysander, bleeding but still standing, joined him. The 2 vampires formed a barrier between Honora and the rebels. We hold here, Lysander said. For the king. For honor. The rebels swarmed them. Gideon and Lysander fought with everything they had. Swords flashing. Bodies moving in perfect synchronization. 100 years of loyalty expressed in violence. But they were outnumbered, outflanked. A sword found Gideon's heart. He froze, looked down at the blade protruding from his chest, then at Honora. Worth it. He gasped. You were worth it. He collapsed, didn't move again. Lysander screamed rage, killed 2 more rebels, but a third caught him from behind, tore out his throat. Lysander fell beside Gideon, both guards dead, loyal until the end. Honora felt tears streaming down her face. They'd died protecting her, given their immortal lives for a mortal servant. An arrow struck Marin in the chest. She staggered, fell. Blood bloomed dark against her dress. No! Honora crawled to her friend. Marin, stay with me. Marin's face was pale, her breathing shallow. Cold, she whispered. Why is it so cold? Dorian appeared beside them. He'd broken away from Theron. One look at Marin's wound told him everything. "We have to go. Now. She's dying." "I know." Dorian lifted Marin carefully. "Which is why we retreat. Theron has the scepter. We've lost this battle." He grabbed Anora's arm, pulled her toward the horses. Behind them, Theron's laughter echoed through ruins. "Run, Your Majesty. Run back to your castle and wait for me to come take your throne." They rode hard through the night, Marin barely conscious in Dorian's arms. Anora's mind replayed Gideon's last words. Lysander's scream, the casual way they'd given everything. When dawn threatened, they found another cave. Dorian laid Marin down gently. Her breathing was labored. The arrow had punctured a lung. She was drowning in her own blood. "She won't survive the day," Dorian said quietly. "Then turn her." Anora grabbed his arm. "Transform her. Save her life. Anora, you know what that means. She'll die as human, be reborn as vampire. It's not a choice made lightly. She's my best friend, the only family I have left." Tears blurred Anora's vision. "Please, I'm begging you." Dorian looked at Marin, at Anora. Through the bond, Anora felt his conflict. He hadn't transformed anyone in decades, hadn't wanted the responsibility, but he'd promised to protect what Anora cared about. "This is mercy," he said finally. "Not a gift. She'll live, but she'll never be human again." He bit his wrist. Blood welled dark. He pressed it to Marin's lips. "Drink." Marin's survival instinct took over. She drank, swallowed. Her body convulsed. The transformation had begun. It would take 3 nights. 3 nights of pain. 3 nights wondering if they'd made the right choice. Anora held her friend's hand, while Dorian prepared for the long wait ahead. Behind them, miles away, Theron held the cursed scepter and planned his next move. The war had begun. Chapter 6. Blood and fire. The cave smelled of earth and old death. Marin lay on Dorian's cloak, her body convulsing with transformation. 3 nights. That's how long it would take. 3 nights of pain while her human body died, and something new was born. Anora held her friend's hand, feeling each tremor. Marin's skin burned hot, then cold, cycling between extremes. Her red hair was soaked with sweat. Her freckled face contorted in silent agony. "It will pass," Dorian said quietly from his position near the cave entrance. "The first night is always the worst. How can you be sure?" Anora's voice cracked. "You haven't transformed anyone in decades, because I remember my own transformation. 600 years ago. The pain never leaves your memory." He stared out into darkness. "But neither does the moment you wake on the other side, when you realize death wasn't the end." The first night crawled past. Marin thrashed, screamed without sound. Her body rejected the vampire blood, then accepted it, then fought again. Anora whispered stories from their childhood, memories of stealing sweet cakes from the kitchen, learning to braid each other's hair, the time they'd hidden from the head housekeeper for an entire day. "You can't leave me now." Anora's tears fell on Marin's burning skin. "I've already lost my mother. Gideon and Lysander died protecting me. I can't lose you too." Dorian moved beside her, placed his cold hand on Anora's shoulder. Through the blood bond, she felt his grief, sharp, raw. He'd lost 2 guards who'd served him faithfully for over a century. Gideon asked to be transformed after his sister was murdered. Dorian's voice was hollow. "I gave him purpose, a chance at justice. He served with honor every day after. And Lysander? Found him dying in a battlefield, war between human kingdoms. He had no loyalty to either side, just fought because someone paid him. I offered meaning instead of gold." Dorian's jaw tightened. "They deserved better than dying in monastery ruins. They chose to protect us. To protect me." Anora looked at him. "That was their purpose. Their honor. Yes, but it doesn't make their loss easier to bear." They sat in silence while Marin suffered. Dawn approached. Dorian would need to rest. Anora would keep watch. But as gray light touched the cave entrance, a figure appeared. Young. Male. Vampire. He wore the colors of neutral houses. His eyes were amber, not red or gray. "Your Majesty." He bowed deeply. "I bring urgent news from Castle Valengard." Dorian stood instantly. "Speak." "Lord Theron has convened an emergency council. Claims you've abandoned your duties. Shows the scepter as proof of his worthiness." The messenger swallowed. "He's demanding a formal vote on your fitness to rule." "When?" 3 nights from now. In the neutral fortress of Granite Hold." The messenger glanced at Merrin's writhing form. "Half the houses have already pledged support to Theron. The other half await your response." Honora felt fury through the blood bond. Dorian's carefully controlled rage. He wanted to ride to Granite Hold immediately. Challenge Theron. End this. But he couldn't. Not while Merrin transformed. Not while they were 3 days' ride from anywhere. "Tell the council I will attend." Dorian's voice was ice. "And tell Lord Theron that running away with a stolen relic doesn't make him worthy of anything except execution." The messenger bowed again. "There's more, Your Majesty. Villages along the northern border report attacks. Vampire raids. Homes burned. Humans killed. The attackers wear no house colors, but witnesses describe Lord Theron's allies. He's trying to start a war," Honora breathed. "Between vampires and humans. Worse." Dorian moved to the cave entrance, stared north toward where his kingdom was falling apart. "He's succeeding. King Edmund sent word yesterday. If vampire attacks continue, he'll consider the treaty broken. Human armies will march against all vampires. No exceptions." The messenger shifted uncomfortably. "The northern houses beg you to return. Restore order. But the southern houses say you've proven Theron right by fleeing with a human servant, instead of defending your people." "I didn't flee." Dorian's words could have cut stone. "I attempted to prevent Theron from claiming a cursed relic. We were ambushed. 2 loyal guards died. And now I'm ensuring a 3rd loyal subject survives transformation." He turned. "Any vampire who questions my priorities can challenge me directly." "Yes, Your Majesty." The messenger bowed once more and disappeared into pre-dawn light. Marin's screaming intensified. Her back arched. Bones cracked and reformed. The transformation was accelerating. The second night was worse. Marin's human consciousness surfaced occasionally. She recognized Honora. Tried to speak, but vampire instincts fought for control. When she opened her eyes, they flickered between brown and red. "I'm scared," Marin gasped during a lucid moment. "What if I lose myself? What if I become a monster?" "You won't." Honora gripped her hand tighter. "I won't let you. How can you stop it?" "Because I know you. 25 years of friendship. That doesn't disappear just because your body changes." Honora looked at Dorian. "Tell her. Tell her transformation doesn't destroy who you are." Dorian knelt beside Marin. "You'll still be yourself. Your memories, your loves, your loyalties. The only things that change are physical. Strength, speed, hunger." He paused. "But the hunger can be controlled. I'll teach you. Promise?" Marin's voice was small, terrified. "I promise." Dorian said it like an oath. "You have my word as king." Marin's consciousness faded again. The transformation pulled her under. Her body convulsed harder. Blood vessels stood out dark against pale skin. Her fingernails lengthened into claws, then retracted, then lengthened again. "Her body is trying to stabilize," Dorian explained, "finding the balance between human and vampire. By dawn, it will complete. And if it doesn't, then she dies, truly dies. It's rare but possible if the human will is too weak or the vampire blood is rejected." He met Honora's eyes. "But Marin is strong. She'll survive." The 3rd night brought visitors. 3 riders approached the cave near midnight. Vampires, but not hostile. Honora recognized one from the castle. An elder who'd witnessed the blood pact. "Your Majesty." The elder dismounted. "Forgive the intrusion. We bring word that cannot wait." "More bad news?" Dorian's tone was resigned. "Theron has declared himself interim king. Claims you forfeit the throne by abandoning your duties during crisis." The elder's pale blue eyes were grave. "The council is divided. Violence has already broken out between houses. 3 vampires dead in territorial disputes. Civil war." Honora whispered. Not yet, but close. Another vampire stepped forward. Female. Ancient. Some of us remember the clan wars 3 centuries ago. How it nearly destroyed our kind. We won't allow that again. What do you propose? Dorian asked. Formal challenge. Ancient tradition. You versus Theron. Combat until one submits or dies. The scepter goes to the victor. The houses must accept the outcome. The female vampire's expression was hard. It's the only way to prevent total war. I won't have my king fight Theron while that cursed relic amplifies his strength. Honora stood. It's not a fair challenge. There's no such thing as fair in vampire politics. The elder said. Only survival. And right now, challenging Theron is the only way King Dorian survives politically. Through the blood bond, Honora felt Dorian's calculation. He was weighing options, considering outcomes. But underneath was something darker. Anticipation. He wanted this fight. Wanted to end Theron permanently. I accept, Dorian said. When and where? 3 nights from now. Dawn of the 4th. In the ancient arena beneath Granite Hold, all vampire houses will witness. The elder glanced at Marin. Will she complete transformation in time? She will. Dorian's voice allowed no doubt. And she'll stand with us when we return to end this rebellion. The visitors left. Honora and Dorian returned to Marin's side. Her convulsions had lessened. Her breathing stabilized. The worst was passing. You're walking into a trap, Honora said quietly. Theron has the scepter. Allies. An army. What do you have? I have 600 years of experience. I have vampires who remember what honor means. And I have you. He touched her hand. The blood bond makes me stronger. Your humanity grounds me. Reminds me what I'm fighting for. I'm just a servant. You're my conscience. My anchor. His gray eyes held hers. Before you, I ruled through duty. Now I remember why duty matters. Because there are people worth protecting. Worth dying for if necessary. Marin's eyes snapped open, red, fully vampire now. She gasped, sat up. Her movements were too fast, supernatural. She looked at her hands, turned them over, saw the pale skin, the sharpened nails. I'm alive. Wonder filled her voice. I'm actually alive. Honora laughed through tears, pulled her friend into a crushing embrace. You scared me. 3 nights of watching you suffer. I felt everything, every bone breaking, every cell dying and being reborn. Marin pulled back. Her red hair seemed brighter now. Her freckles stood out stark against pale skin. But I'm here. Still me. Just different. Your hair, Dorian observed. Still red, same as before transformation. That's unusual. Most vampires' coloring changes. She's my daughter now, Honora realized. Through your blood. The creator's traits pass to the transformed. Yes. Dorian smiled slightly. Welcome to immortality, Marin. I hope you find it more blessing than curse. Marin stood, wobbled, caught herself with supernatural reflexes. Everything is so loud, so bright. I can hear your heartbeats, smell the horses outside, feel the wind 3 caves over. Your senses are heightened. It takes time to adjust. Dorian moved toward the cave entrance. But we don't have time for gradual adjustment. We ride tonight, back to Granite Hold, to end this war before it truly begins. Can she fight? Honora asked. She just woke up. I feel strong. Marin flexed her hands, claws extended, retracted. Stronger than I've ever been. Show me what I need to know. I'll learn fast. They spent 2 hours teaching Marin the basics. How to move without breaking things. How to control her strength. How to fight with vampire speed. She adapted quickly. Natural talent combined with immortal abilities. At midnight, they rode toward Granite Hold. 3 riders instead of 5. Gideon and Lysander's horses followed riderless. A reminder of what they'd lost. What they were fighting for. The journey took 2 nights of hard riding. They avoided villages, stayed to forests and wilderness. Twice they spotted rebel vampires in the distance. Theron's forces patrolling, looking for them. On the second night, They found a burned village, homes reduced to ash, bodies in the street, human and vampire both. The smell of death hung thick. "This is Theron's work." Dorian dismounted, walked among the ruins, attacking humans to force King Edmund's hand, killing loyalist vampires to eliminate opposition. Honora saw a child's doll half burned in the rubble. Thought of all the children who'd lived here, played here, died here because of one vampire's ambition. "We end this," she said firmly. "Whatever it takes." Yes, Dorian's expression was carved from stone. Whatever it takes. They reached Granite Hold at dusk on the third night. The fortress rose from bedrock like a giant's fist. Ancient, impregnable, neutral ground for 2 centuries. Tonight it would host a battle that determined the future of vampire kind. Vampires filled the courtyard. Hundreds of them. All vampire houses represented. Some wore Theron's colors. Others wore traditional neutrals. A few wore Dorian's black and silver. Theron stood on the fortress steps. The scepter in his hand pulsed with sickly crimson light. When he saw Dorian arrive, his smile was triumphant. "Your Majesty." His voice carried to every vampire present. "How kind of you to finally return. We were beginning to think you'd abandoned us permanently." Dorian dismounted, walked forward with Honora and Merrin flanking him. "I'm here, Theron, as challenged, ready to prove who deserves the throne." "Excellent." Theron raised the scepter. "Then let's begin. At dawn, the arena, you and me. May the worthiest vampire win." The crowd parted as Dorian approached the fortress entrance. Whispers followed them. Speculation. Bets on who would survive. Honora felt Dorian's determination through the blood bond. Absolute. Unwavering. He would win this fight or die trying. And she would stand witness either way, because that's what family did. And somehow, impossibly, this vampire king and her transformed best friend had become her family. The only family she had left. Chapter 7. The Ancient Arena. The arena beneath Granite Hold was older than memory. Stone carved from living rock by the first vampires. Torches burned in brackets that had held flame for 1,000 years. The air smelled of blood and ancient violence. Hundreds of vampires filled the circular tiers. Every major house represented. Some wore ceremonial armor, others simple robes. All watched with predatory focus as the 2 combatants prepared. Honora stood with Merrin in the section reserved for witnesses. Her hands gripped the cold stone railing. Through the blood bond, she felt Dorian's emotions. Not fear, grim determination mixed with centuries of battle experience. "He's going to win," Merrin said quietly. Her newly vampire senses picked up details Honora couldn't see. "Look at how he moves. Every step calculated. Theron is powerful but reckless. Theron has the scepter." Honora watched the cursed relic pulse in Theron's grip. Sickly crimson light that made her skin crawl. That thing amplifies strength. But at what cost? Merrin's red eyes narrowed. "You said it was cursed. That it drains those who use it for ambition. Yes. But will it kill him before he kills Dorian?" The silver-haired elder stepped into the arena center. His voice carried to every tier. "Ancient challenge has been invoked. King Dorian of House Vale versus Lord Theron Ashcroft. Combat until submission or death. The scepter of blood goes to the victor. All vampire houses will honor the outcome." Dorian entered from the eastern gate. He'd removed his cloak, wore simple black fighting leathers. His sword was 600 years old, silver blade that had tasted the blood of countless enemies. His black hair was tied back. Gray eyes focused entirely on his opponent. Theron entered from the west. The scepter blazed brighter. His red eyes reflected its light. "Ready to die, old king? Your time is over. Mine begins. Then prove it." Dorian's voice was ice. "Stop talking and fight." They circled each other, predators measuring, calculating. The arena held its collective breath. Theron attacked first. Supernatural speed that blurred the air. His sword aimed for Dorian's heart, a killing blow if it landed. Dorian wasn't there. He'd moved before Theron completed the strike. 6 centuries of experience reading body language. predicting attacks. His counterattack caught Theron's shoulder, drew first blood. "You're slow," Dorian said. "The scepter makes you strong but clumsy." Theron roared, attacked again, faster, harder. The scepter pulsed with each strike. His strength was inhuman even by vampire standards. Each blow that connected with Dorian's blade sent shockwaves through the arena, but Dorian was like water, flowing around attacks. Never where Theron expected. His 600 years showed in every parry, every dodge, every precise counter that drew blood without committing fully. "Stand still!" Theron's frustration was obvious. "Fight me properly." "I'm fighting smart. You should try it." Dorian's blade found Theron's ribs. Another wound. Not fatal, but painful. They fought for what felt like hours. Theron's attacks grew more desperate, more powerful. The scepter blazed brighter with each passing minute. His strength increased. Dorian was forced backward, defending more than attacking. Then Honora noticed something. Theron's skin. It was paler than before. Not the normal vampire pale. Something wrong. Sickly. His veins. She gasped. Look at his veins. Dark lines spread across Theron's neck, his hands, creeping like infection. The curse was activating. The scepter was draining him even as it made him stronger. "Drop the scepter," Honora shouted. "It's killing you." The arena went silent. Every vampire heard. Theron froze mid-strike. His red eyes found Honora in the stands. For a moment, recognition flashed. Understanding. He looked down at the scepter, at the dark veins spreading across his hands. Then his expression hardened. "No. This is my power, my right. I won't surrender it." "You fool." Dorian pressed his attack. "Ambition makes you blind." Their swords clashed again, but Theron was weakening. The dark veins spread faster, reached his face, his eyes. He gasped, stumbled. The scepter slipped from his grip, clattered onto stone. Dorian kicked it away. The relic skittered across the arena floor. Its light dimmed without Theron's grip. "No!" Theron crawled toward it, desperate. "Mine. It's mine. It was never yours." Dorian stood over him, sword raised. "Power isn't taken. It's earned through service, through honor. You never understood that." Theron lunged for the scepter. His fingers closed around it. The light blazed once more. But instead of strength, it brought agony. Theron screamed. His body convulsed. The dark veins exploded across his skin like cracks in ice. "It's burning me," he gasped. From the inside. "Help me." Honora felt pity through her horror. Even after everything, even knowing Theron tried to kill her, tried to start a war, she didn't want to watch him die like this. "Someone help him," she pleaded. "Make it stop." But no one moved. This was vampire justice. Ancient. Absolute. Theron had chosen ambition over honor. The curse was simply completing what he'd started. Theron's screams faded. His movement slowed. The dark veins covered his entire body now. His red eyes dimmed, fixed on the scepter still clutched in his hands. "Should've listened." His final words barely audible. "Should've." He collapsed. Didn't move again. Dead from his own ambition. Killed by the very power he'd craved. The arena remained silent. Shock rippled through the assembled vampires. Their interim king. Their challenger. Destroyed by the relic he'd claimed would save them. Dorian walked to the scepter, carefully pried it from Theron's dead fingers. The relic pulsed weakly in his grip. He felt its pull. The promise of power. The temptation that had killed dozens before Theron. This ends now. Dorian raised the scepter above his head. No more kings. No more challengers. No more death. He brought it down hard against the stone floor. Once. Twice. The metal cracked. The crimson stone shattered. Energy exploded outward. A shockwave of released magic. The arena shook. Torches guttered and died. Vampires shielded their eyes against the blinding light. Honora felt the force hit her, threw her backward. Her head struck stone. Pain exploded through her skull. Darkness flooded in. The last thing she heard was Dorian shouting her name. When the light faded, the scepter was dust. The curse broken, and Theron's rebellion was over. Vampires slowly rose from where they'd taken cover, looked at their king standing in the center of the arena. Sword-bloodied, victorious, alone. The silver-haired elder was first to kneel. The challenge is complete. King Dorian retains his throne. All vampire houses will honor this outcome. One by one, the vampires knelt. Even those who'd supported Theron. Even those who'd questioned Dorian's judgment. Ancient law was absolute. The victor deserved respect. In the stands reserved for human nobles, Duke Hartley knelt as well. His face was pale. His daughter's conspiracy had failed. His alliance with Theron had crumbled. All his plans destroyed in one night. Rise. Dorian's voice carried exhaustion. 600 years of it. The rebellion is over. Anyone who participated but did not directly kill can return to their territories. Rebuild what was destroyed. Honor the treaties we almost broke. Marin caught Honora before she hit the ground. Her vampire speed saved her friend from worse injury. She's bleeding. Hit her head. Dorian was there instantly, gathered Honora in his arms. Through the blood bond, he could feel her consciousness slipping. The pain, the confusion. Hold on, he whispered. Don't leave me now. Not after everything. The arena emptied. Vampires departed to spread word of Theron's defeat, of the scepter's destruction, of the curse that killed the ambitious. Dorian carried Honora to chambers prepared for them, laid her on soft blankets. Her breathing was shallow, her pulse weak. The blow had been severe. Will she survive? Marin hovered nearby, worried. I don't know. Dorian's hand trembled as it brushed Honora's cheek. The blood bond connects us, but I can't heal her. That's not how it works. Then what do? We wait, and we hope. He looked at Marin. Thank you, for catching her, for standing with us. She's my sister in all but blood. Marin's voice was fierce. I'd die before letting harm come to her. You already did, and came back. Dorian managed a small smile. She's lucky to have you. They kept vigil through the night. Honora's breathing grew more labored, her skin cold. The injury was worse than it appeared. Dawn approached. Dorian would need to rest, but he refused to leave. Instead, he used the blood bond, pushed his own strength into her, gave what he could to keep her alive. Don't do this, Marin warned. You'll weaken yourself. I don't care. Dorian's gray eyes never left Honora's face. She saved my life twice, stood beside me when others ran, threw a tray across a throne room because it was right. His voice cracked. I won't lose her. Not like this. Not after everything. Through the fading darkness, dawn's first light touched the eastern windows. A new day, new beginning, or an ending neither of them could accept. Honora's eyes remained closed, her breathing shallow, and Dorian held her hand through it all. King of vampires, 600 years old, powerful beyond measure, but helpless to save the one person who'd made him feel alive again. Chapter 8, Dawn of Eternity. 3 days passed in stillness. Honora lay motionless in the chamber Dorian had commandeered, her breathing shallow, her skin pale as moonlight. The wound to her head had been severe. Internal bleeding. Damage the human body couldn't heal fast enough. Dorian never left her side. He sat in a chair pulled close to the bed, one hand holding hers. Through the blood bond, he pushed his strength into her, keeping her alive through sheer force of will. The vampire elders came on the second day. The silver-haired one spoke first. Your Majesty, the human is dying. The only way to save her is transformation. I won't do it without her consent. Dorian's voice was hollow, exhausted. 3 days of giving his strength had weakened him significantly. She deserves the choice. Then she'll die. Tonight, maybe tomorrow, but soon. The female elder's expression was almost sympathetic. Is your pride worth her life? It's not pride. It's respect. Dorian's gray eyes never left Honora's face. She threw a tray across my throne room because it was right. I won't take her humanity without permission. That wouldn't be right. Marin stood nearby. Her new vampire senses told her what the others wouldn't say. Dorian was fading. The blood bond worked both ways. As Honora died, she pulled him down with her. You're killing yourself, Marin said quietly. She wouldn't want that. Then she should wake up and tell me herself. On the fourth day, Honora's eyes opened. Green hazel meeting gray. Recognition flickered. Then pain. Don't move. Dorian leaned forward. Relief flooded the blood bond. You hit your head. It's been 3 days. 3 days. Her voice was barely audible. The challenge. Theron. Dead. The rebellion is over. You're safe. He helped her sit up slowly. But there's something you need to know. Your injuries are too severe. Internal bleeding. The human healers give you hours at best. The weight of his words settled over her. Death. Again. It kept chasing her, following her through throne rooms and monasteries and ancient arenas. You can transform me, Honora said. Not a question, a statement. I can. But only if you choose it, consciously, knowing what it means. Dorian's hand trembled slightly. You'll die as human. Be reborn as vampire. Live for centuries. Watch everyone you know age and die. Drink blood to survive. It's not a gift. It's a curse that looks like salvation. Honora thought of her mother. Rejected by her family for loving a common man. Cast out. Stripped of everything. But she'd chosen love anyway. Chosen what was right over what was comfortable. My mother taught me that dignity comes from choice. Honora met his eyes. That living with honor matters more than living safely. She sounds wise. She was. Honora felt tears slip down her cheeks. Gideon and Lysander chose to die protecting me. They gave centuries for ours. That was their choice. Their honor. Yes. Then I choose too. I choose to live. To see what we can become together. Her hand found his. I choose you. Centuries of you. However many we get. Something that might have been hope crossed Dorian's features. Are you certain? Once it begins, there's no stopping it. 3 nights of pain. Then you wake changed forever. I'm certain. Honora smiled despite everything. Besides, you said it yourself. You're tired of being alone. So am I. Dorian stood, moved to the door, spoke to guards outside. When he returned, the silver-haired elder followed. You're sure about this, child? The elder asked. Immortality isn't what stories make it seem. I'm sure. Then we witness. The elder took position near the window. Begin when ready, Your Majesty. Dorian sat beside Honora on the bed, took her hand. It will hurt, more than anything you felt. But I'll be here. Every moment, I promise. I know. She smiled. I can feel you through the bond. You've been keeping me alive for 3 days. I felt that too. You were worth it. He bit his wrist. Blood welled dark. Offered it to her. Drink, and when you wake, we'll face eternity together. Honora drank. The blood was cold, metallic. Wrong in ways her human instinct screamed about. But she swallowed anyway. Trusting. Choosing. The transformation hit like lightning. Pain exploded through every nerve. She gasped, convulsed. Dorian held her through it, whispering words she couldn't hear over the roaring in her ears. Her heart slowed, stopped. For one terrible moment, she felt nothing. Empty. Gone. Then it started again. Different, stronger. Her human heart dying, her vampire heart being born. The first night was agony. Fire in her veins, ice in her bones, her body rejecting and accepting in cycles. Marin stayed close, talking about their childhood, reminding Honora who she was beneath the pain. The second night brought change. Her senses amplified. She could hear conversations 3 chambers away, smell individual candles burning throughout the castle, feel the texture of silk sheets in microscopic detail. The third night, everything settled. Her body found balance. Human and vampire merged into something new, something eternal. She woke at sunset. The chamber was dark, but she could see perfectly. Every detail sharp, every shadow full of information. Dorian sat beside her. He'd stayed the entire 3 nights. witnessed every moment. Welcome back. Honora looked at her hands. Pale, perfect, stronger than they'd ever been. She flexed her fingers, felt power coiled beneath the surface. I feel different. Everything is different. Your hair's the same. Marin appeared, smiled. Still brown, same as your creator. That's how it works. Honora touched her hair, found it unchanged except for texture, softer, more vibrant. I'm really vampire now. You are. Dorian helped her stand. How do you feel? Hungry. The word came unbidden. She could smell blood. Dorian's. Marin's. The guards outside. Every pulse called to her. Is it always this intense? At first, you'll learn control. He guided her to a table where goblets waited. Animal blood for now, until you're steady. Honora drank. The taste was incredible. Rich. Satisfying in ways food never had been. She drained 3 goblets before the hunger eased. Better? Dorian asked. Much. She looked at him. Really looked. Saw details she'd never noticed. The way his gray eyes caught light. The faint scars on his hands from centuries of battle. The way he stood completely still in that vampire way. You're beautiful. I never realized how much until now. Your senses are amplified. Everything seems more intense. But he smiled. Genuine. Warm. Come. There's much to teach you. The next weeks passed in training. Honora learned to control her strength. How to move without breaking things. How to fight with supernatural speed. Marin trained beside her. 2 newly transformed vampires navigating immortality together. Dorian taught them vampire law, politics, the delicate balance that kept their kind hidden, and slowly, carefully, he taught them about the blood bond, how it deepened, connected, made them aware of each other always. 6 months after the transformation, Castle Valengard prepared for a ceremony, formal, ancient, something that hadn't happened in 400 years, the coronation of a vampire queen. The Great Hall was packed. Every major vampire house sent representatives. Human nobles came too, including Duke Hartley. His face was carefully neutral. His daughter's exile had cost him politically, but he'd adapted, survived. Honora stood before Dorian's throne wearing a gown of midnight blue, silver thread woven through the fabric. Her brown hair fell in waves past her shoulders. 22 years old. Forever. Eternal. Dorian descended from his throne. In his hands, he carried a crown. Silver. Simple. Elegant. He placed it on her head with ceremony that dated back a millennium. Honora Whalen. Once human, now vampire. You saved my life. Stood beside me through rebellion. Chose immortality when death was easier. His voice carried to every corner. I name you queen of our kind, equal in authority, partner in rule. Witness this, all who gather. The vampires knelt, one by one, house by house, even those who'd questioned, even those who'd supported Theron. Ancient law demanded respect. Duke Hartley knelt too. His gesture was acceptance, acknowledgement that the girl from his family's castle now ruled beside the vampire king. After the ceremony, Honora established her first laws. Protection for human servants. Fair treatment. Rights previously ignored. Some vampires protested, but with Dorian's support and her own newfound authority, the laws stood. My mother was cast out for loving a common man, Honora told the assembled court. I won't rule over a kingdom where status matters more than dignity. Things change. Starting now. That night, Honora and Dorian stood on the western balcony, the castle's highest point. Dawn approached slowly, gray light touching the horizon. I never watched sunrises before you, Dorian said quietly. Avoided them. Too painful. Too mortal. And now? Honora leaned against the stone railing. Her vampire senses detected no danger. Just wind, stars. The world waking. Now they remind me why I fought for 600 years. Why I'll keep fighting for 600 more. He moved beside her. Their shoulders touched. Because there's beauty worth protecting. Even in darkness. The sky lightened, pink and gold spreading across clouds. Vampires as old as Dorian could tolerate dawn's first light. A breath later, the light sharpened. Dorian guided them 2 steps back beneath the stone lintel, where the sun couldn't quite reach. Habit, not fear. Honora was too newly transformed. She'd need centuries before sunrise didn't burn, but twilight was theirs. That perfect moment between night and day, when the world held its breath. Do you regret it? Dorian asked. Choosing this life? Honora thought about everything. The throne tray, the blood pact, the monastery ruins, Gideon and Lysander dying to protect her. 3 nights of transformation agony. No, she took his hand. I regret nothing. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. With a vampire king who's socially awkward and politically exhausted. With my partner. My equal. My choice. She smiled. For however many centuries we get. Dorian pulled her close, kissed her forehead. The gesture was gentle, tender. 600 years of loneliness finally ending. Below them, Castle Valengard prepared for a new day. Human servants began their work. Vampire courtiers retreated to darkness. The world kept turning as it always had, but something had changed. A servant girl had become queen. A vampire king had remembered how to care, and 2 immortal beings stood together watching dawn approach, not afraid of the light, just aware of it, respecting its power while knowing they belonged to shadow. They lingered beneath the arch while the horizon paled. When the first ray crested the battlements, they stepped back into shadow. Dawn was no longer a ritual, just a reminder to keep moving. There were laws to defend, and enemies who preferred the daylight to do their scheming. Let them argue, Honora said. They'll adapt. Change is uncomfortable, but necessary. Spoken like a true queen. Marin grinned. Though I still remember when you spilled wine on yourself trying to impress the head cook. I was 12. And clumsy. Dorian laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was rusty from disuse but genuine. I'd like to hear more stories about Queen Honora's misspent youth. Absolutely not, Honora protested, but she was smiling too. They stood together as dawn fully broke. 3 vampires, 1 ancient king, 1 transformed queen, 1 loyal friend, watching light claim the sky while they retreated to shadow. This was their life now. Eternal. Complicated. Beautiful in its darkness. And for the first time in 600 years, Dorian looked toward the future with something other than weary duty. He looked forward with hope.